There's so much devastation within the koala world. We've seen the terrible dog attacks, we've seen the hit by cars, we've seen people shoot koalas. It's just really, really bad. And I do believe that most of the diseases and the injuries are caused by us. And of course, because of the fact that the koalas have nowhere to go.
I guess the most devastating thing I would say is when we have orphan joeys come into care. We get koalas in that have been hit by a car in the middle of the Bruce Highway, and there is no land really safe for them. The reason it's so devastating is we put them back, we follow the law, and then we have them come back into the hospital, again hit by a car. You know, all this work to rehabilitate them, we put them back basically for their death.
I come from a land down under. We're very welcoming down here. Never loud or obnoxious. Some may say we're a pretty colourful bunch. Australia. I am truly proud to call this place my home. But I'm not the only one to call Australia home. We have made some serious changes to a once untouched landscape. Some have adapted to the change. But what happens to the poor buggers who can't? Surely we would help them out. Surely we would not neglect them. Surely we would protect the land they need to survive. Sadly, this is not the case. And Queensland, the once so-called smart state, is leading the way towards devastation. In 2013, the Vegetation Management Act was revised to allow for broad-scale land clearing for agriculture and other destructive industries.
Without any kind of vegetation management, millions of hectares of land has been clear-cut. And that means approximately, I think it's 84,000 hectares of critical koala habitat is lost forever.
As our homes appeared, the homes of others vanished. Fragments of their past freedom remained scattered between new and dangerous terrain. New threats left many vulnerable or orphaned. The only hope for orphaned joeys is for carers to step in and attempt to act as mum. But even when the carer is successful in getting the joey to adulthood, the struggle is not over yet.
Where he came from had been cleared to the ground. So the law says that you have to release them back to where they came from. And we couldn't do that because there was nothing there. So we found the nearest thing, which was a golf course. And again, I wasn't happy with that because the golf course already had a residential population of koalas, and a young male koala is considered a threat. And I said I wasn't happy putting him there, but I was not given an option. It's either there or nowhere. So under much duress and with a lot of trepidation, I made the decision and I said to Queensland Parks and Wildlife Service, he is not going to make it. He is going to come back to me dead sooner rather than later. And 6 weeks after he was released, he was kicked out of the golf course by the residential alpha male, tried to get to Noosa National Park, went through a high-density residential area in the process, was attacked by 2 Dobermans and killed. And he came back to me 6 weeks later as a dead body. Such a thing in the life of a carer is commonplace, and it's extremely difficult. Even now, I get extremely distressed talking about it. So it's yes, I recognise it's about saving the population as a whole, but to save the population as a whole, we have to save one at a time.
But it's becoming increasingly difficult to save any, as more and more people refuse to see themselves as a threat. Even those who benefit from our presence are not entirely safe. It's not just the removal of their homes, but the new threats we've exposed in the process. Roadkill is inevitable, as roads are usually built through once connected bushland. Those who attempt to cross risk their lives to benefit from what's on the other side. For those too scared to attempt, it's solitary confinement to our concrete jungle. Koalas, the cheeky buggers that they are, will often put themselves in harm's way to look for food or a mate. But there are more dangers beyond the roads. Our furry friends are not always welcoming towards our Aussie icons. It's truly heartbreaking to see koalas in this way. But just how bad is it?
The last population survey that was done was back in 2012. So we're a little bit unsure about where we are right now. But from 2012, it was about an 80% decline had occurred. I think it was about a 15-year period, so fairly quick.
An 80% decline back in 2012? So why the heck did they pass new laws just a year after allowing for further destruction of their habitat? Surely that hasn't helped the situation.
We're not really truly protecting koalas, and we were seeing them with an incredible decline which has only increased over the past 10 years.
The population is looking dire from where I have experience. We want to see, our national icons still around for our children to come, and the rate we're going, there's not going to be any.
But what's all the fuss about anyway? Why should we care so much about koalas?
They're what you could describe as umbrella species, so that, if you're protecting habitat for koalas, you're protecting a myriad of other species underneath.
So, by protecting koala habitat, we can increase the overall biodiversity of an area. And of course, if that's not a good enough reason, they're bloody cute.
When I came to Australia, I'd always loved the species that came from here, where I'd seen them in the zoo, and koala was one of my favourite.
People travel far and wide to see the little marsupial. Bloody hell, I don't blame them. Although they're unlikely to get such an active greeting. That's more like it. They are a mostly nocturnal species, after all. I'm happy that my grandchildren get to experience this gorgeous animal, but I do worry about the generations to come. I've seen the neglect of an iconic species lead to extinction before. If we aren't careful, the koala is heading towards that same fate. It certainly doesn't help that the poor things are already predisposed to disease. Koala retrovirus, or CORV, is an autoimmune disease similar to AIDS which has infected all wild koalas in Queensland. The disease is closely related to a disease which gibbons suffer, called gibbon-ape leukemia virus, or GALV. It's unclear on how our koala and the gibbon came to share such a similar virus. But now that it's here, compromising the immune systems of all our wild koalas, they are more likely to end up with diseases like chlamydia, leukemia and lymphoma. And because they are vulnerable, they need our help.
We got called to a koala rescue, and the call came through that the koala was on the roof. She suffered severe dehydration. Test came back positive for chlamydia, so she underwent a 30-day treatment plan up at Australia Zoo.
It's great that rescuers and hospitals are helping diseased koalas. But with everyone looking out for disease, they could help many more.
The main signs that you'll look for wet bottom, which indicates cystitis, gunky eyes, the sore red eyes. Making sure that people know what to look out for and not to turn a blind eye and think, oh, it's just an animal, it'll be fine. You see an animal that looks injured or not moving when you go near them, it's normally a sign that there's something not right. And if you saw a human that was injured, you would obviously call help. Getting that mentality through to people that, you know, animals do need treatment and do suffer a lot of pain.
That way, we can really look after the ones we have left.
We're fortunate in the Redlands that we do still have koalas living in our neighbourhood, and using Cleveland as an example, we've got a lot of koalas still living in Cleveland. We've been quite surprised ourselves.
Just outside of Brisbane, Redland City was once a koala hotspot. The rich soil around the coast made for ideal koala habitat. But as we love a good ocean view, the koalas were forced inland into areas where the picky buggers refused to stay for long.
Our group embarked on a GPS tracking project. We fitted 8 koalas in the Cleveland area here with GPS tracking collars, and twice a day their movements would upload to a website, and we were actually able to see their movement patterns. One of the significant, I suppose, findings of that project is there's a tree that we named the family tree. It's a blue gum, or Terraticornis. That is the favourite food tree of the koala in Redlands anyway.
They found the tree was much more than just a food source, and was being used in a way they had never seen before. Seemed to be a sort of nursery where mother and young would often spend a lot of their time. A truly significant tree for koalas in Cleveland, but due to its location, it was under threat of being removed.
That tree was actually saved as part of that development. It was a condition on the developer to save that tree. It's managed under the body corporate of the townhouse complex. Apparently all the residents pay a fee towards the maintenance of it, and that's, yeah, we'd like to see a lot more of that happen in future developments.
Thanks to the retainment of the family tree, you can still often spot a koala in Cleveland, and if you can't spot them during the day, you can be sure to hear them at night. But the Cleveland koalas are not out of the woods yet. On top of the dangers of living in suburbia, the Walker Group have proposed a $1.3 billion project to reconstruct Toondah Harbour. They plan to remove a protected Ramsar site, which is currently protected under federal law, and replace it with a world-class ferry terminal, shops and apartments. The development will likely destroy koala habitat and will definitely destroy habitat for other protected wildlife. For that reason, many people refuse to support that kind of destruction. It's clear that the locals want to see koalas stick around for years to come.
My name's Gerald Brock. I've been here over 25 years. In the 90s, early 90s, when we first came here, we started koala tours. The experience was koalas in the wild rather than in captivity.
Gerald owns a heritage-listed hotel in Cleveland and has always supported koalas in the area.
There's been a lot of concern about koala habitat, which I share, and concern over Ramsar wetlands, which is a legitimate concern.
However, despite concern, the project has been backed by state government and is supported by the local council. Gerald feels there is a good reason why.
Unless you plan for change, you'll get steamrolled by just sheer number of people coming, and you'll get haphazard planning. Therefore, that is a reason to build high-rise to accommodate the natural growth in the area. And that way you avoid eating into the habitat.
I do believe we should avoid further fragmentation of any remaining habitat. But is building a high-rise that will house thousands of people and their cars really a way to do that? Do councils really care what happens to our koalas?
I work, a lot with local councils, and there are some really genuine good people in the organisations. There's really good genuine people in the main roads. There's really good genuine people out there, but they're in a machine. And it doesn't, their intentions and their desires don't necessarily come out the other end.
But there are others who aren't so genuine about helping koalas.
Half of them aren't trained adequately. They're just there to tick a box. It's after the fact of the inadequate environmental surveys that have been done or the inadequate regulation that's there.
Sometimes I wonder if Queensland cares about its wildlife at all.
It's not a genuine desire to do something, it's a public face activity to say, oh, we've done this or that.
But at the end of the day, we can't hold individuals responsible for the demise of the koala. We have to be accountable as a state. So, Queensland, are we currently doing enough?
Absolutely not.
No.
No.
I'd say no.
Koala's extinction is really inevitable. Unless we have some political will, we need to get the Vegetation Management Act back.
The koala, it's seen as being in the way of progress. When I say progress, we're talking about development like you see in this area.
The koala is Queensland's faunal emblem. It's an animal icon. So if we can't save the habitat for such a beautiful, charismatic animal, all the other less attractive creatures haven't got a hope in hell.
It's the developers, you know, there's too many developments going on, too many trees cut down, and in a rate where you go, this is just not sustainable.
The infrastructure companies and the likes, they don't see it being taken seriously, so they don't take it seriously. So until it's being taken seriously again in government and there's commitment and genuine ethical commitment to it, that flowing's not going to happen.
The overarching problem is that whole population, we need to grow, we need to grow, we need to grow to be prosperous.
And it's a complex issue because lots of factors are involved in what's causing their illnesses and what's causing their deaths. But there's lots of things we can do as individuals and as groups to make a difference and to help.
If we all do our bit, you know, there is a chance we can keep them into the future. And I suppose that the key things are, if you've got a koala food tree or even any trees in your yard, just try and retain them if you can. We know they're crossing these roads now from our tracking project, so just try and slow down a little bit and drive carefully. And if you've got pet dogs, just keep them inside at night time because koalas will, they will go across yards.
Making people aware what's going on, you know, getting them actively involved and signing petitions and protesting so that they do know that, you know, we have a voice, we want to see, you know, our national icons still around for our children to come, and the rate we're going, there's not going to be any.
It would be really getting on top of disease and doing everything they can to possibly even capture in the field and find a one-dose vaccination that would actually protect them. Let's not spend money on what we already know. Let's put it into building those bridges across the road. Let's put it into developing and re-establishing more habitat and planting more trees. We can't keep up with the rate of destruction that's already been done. It takes 5 to 10 years before the trees that we're planting in tube stock can actually be utilised by those koalas. In 5 or 10 years, with a declining population in our area of 80%, we're not going to see koalas then. So we're growing trees for what?
For me, the fundamental issue is habitat loss and fragmentation. That forces all arboreal animals, all tree-dwelling animals to the ground, and that's when they have to cross roads and get hit by motor vehicles. That's when they cross backyards and get attacked by domestic dogs. We can't keep on clearing the trees and not expecting some catastrophic results. And the world without our native wildlife would be a catastrophic place in which to live.
I do hope that if people find sick or injured wildlife, at least contact somebody. Don't leave it there. They do feel pain. So if you see anything where you go, oh, that's not normal, call one of the local wildlife rescue groups or your, you know, even your police or your vets or whatever, but do something. If it's a child that's on the road and it's been hit by a car, you wouldn't go past without doing anything, would you? So don't do this for an animal. And I think that is really where it starts.
Being responsible for your own expenditure, effort and attention. So where's your money going? Where are your purchases going? What companies are you supporting? The government's always last. People change, the corporations change, and then they drive the government change. It doesn't happen in the real world. It doesn't happen the other way around. If you don't think one person can make a difference, try what effect does a mosquito have in your tent?